hey. We be, hey. That's the type of vibes we coming in with. Wagwan, 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 wagwan. Yes, if you know Suzette Speaks, you know me can dance anytime of day, every day. Some me stay. I love my culture. I love my music. Wagwan, I love my people. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Suzette Speaks live on the radio. How are you? It's burning up here. I'm not gonna lie, Mikey. Please link up with the AC. It's hot, but that's okay. We're gonna keep the vibes even hotter. I want to welcome you. It's the Susan Speak Show live on Voice of the Caribbean Radio. I'm glad to have you here. If you're watching on the app, you see how it go. It turned redhead. Yes, Suzette turned redhead. Wow, go on. It's summer still, baby. It's summer. We still doing what we got to do, making sure we keep it fly. I know it's back to school. Everybody's been buzzing. I think just about everybody is back to school now. Yes, but oh, I think you can hear the AC blowing on the mic. That's what I'm hearing. Oh boy, I'm gonna come out of the AC. Come and sit on right down the AC today because it's hot in here today. But we're here to have a good time. If you're new here, welcome. Okay, Mikey, I'm gonna move from there. Yeah. God, crisp. Wow, the little AC that's blowing on me, saving my dear life today. Because in South Florida, what's the temperature now? Oh my gosh, 91 degrees for Lauderdale. It's a little bit hotter in Miami. And your girl done put on the braids, baby. It's a whole nother. We're still in summer mode. I know it's back to school for all my teachers. Shout out to everybody listening, people watching on the YouTube side. Big up yourself. Hit the like button. If you're watching on the app, you know that we're an app too. So we have some big changes coming up next month. We're so excited. We are expanding. We are growing. The voice of the Caribbean family is just going to get bigger and better. I got to, leave it there, and we'll stay tuned for some big changes we're going to be announcing soon here. But today, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Suzette Speaks. I'm an attorney. I love to give you my opinion on hot topics, social media trends, news you can use, of course. There's a lot going on, and I have to start today because we got to get into it, family. We have to get into it. Yes, it's a disclaimer. Mike is just make sure you disclaim. Say what you want to say, but just make sure the people know that the views shared on this program are that of the host only and do not reflect the views of management and ownership. Right? Viewer discretion is advised, and we are not here to influence your thinking. We are here to share our thinking, and you can make your own informed decision. But there's so much going on in the world. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what's the big news. So the big news right now is President Trump taking over the DC Police Department. This is major news, folks, and we have to talk about it because it is impacting the nation's capital. And if you haven't been paying attention, I want to fill you in with what's been going on. So basically, President Trump has invoked federal control. The national government of the United States has now taken over the District of Columbia. And I'm going to go into some of the legal reasons as to why this is happening. Yes, he has legal footing, but some folks are arguing that it's kind of weak. He's supposed to be able to exercise this in the case of a national emergency, and he only has a limited amount of time to be able to do it. But based on some of the press conferences that have been happening since August 11th, when this was announced, there are folks who are quite worried. So we're going to talk about this situation and ask, what are some of the legal implications? What does this mean? Can this happen in other places? Is this a test case like so many people are worried about? Well, President Trump has invoked federal control over the DC Police Department, citing a public safety emergency. And he has, I have cousins that live in DC, deployed the National Guard in order to, according to the president, address crime in the capital city. Now, this has come just a few days after someone who the president is familiar with, who worked on Elon Musk's, remember him? Where is Elon? Anybody seen Elon? Elon has gone very quiet, right? Remember he came in, breaking down doors, smashing windows, so to speak, cutting staff members, cutting back on different agencies, cutting budgets, cutting jobs, big and bad. Well, one of those folks who worked for the Doge, as it was called, a young man who had a position there was apparently mugged or carjacked. Somebody had tried to rob him while he was in Washington, D.C. And folks are saying, is this the reason why President Trump has now found himself in the middle of invoking an act that does allow national control, the president to control the DC police under the auspices of an emergency when there is an emergency. Well, on August 11th, President Trump announced that he was taking historic action to address crime in DC by invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. This action allows the president to place the Metropolitan Police Department under federal control during emergencies. The declaration enables the deployment of federal law enforcement agencies, in other words, the military, including the National Guard, to assist in maintaining order and public safety. Now, there are folks who are highly disturbed by this decision because some of the rhetoric, and I guess after the break, I'm going to line up some of the audio so you can hear directly from the president's mouth himself as to why he's doing it, cleaning up the crime, cleaning up the city. He's even talked about getting rid of homeless. They have to get out of here, is the sentiment. And it is causing quite a stir among not only Washingtonians, the people who live in the District of Columbia, the nation's capital, but people around the country are watching and looking at what's happening. And they're wondering if this might be some sort of test to see how far they can go. Now, of course, Washington, D.C. is not a state. That's the difference. I was on a program yesterday. For those of you who guys don't know, I'm an attorney as well. I practice personal injury law and medical malpractice law here in Florida. I help people who have been injured on their jobs, whether in a car accident, or sometimes in the hospital, or while receiving medical care. If you've ever been injured in that way, I can help you. I'm also a community advocate. I love to host events. When I tell you I give God praise right now, I am so booked and busy. Thank you, God. I am so booked and busy in the next 2 months. Almost every weekend I'll be working. Thank you, God. To host events for people. I host private parties. I host private events, charity galas. I'll be hosting, let me tell you, I'll be hosting a Miss Louise Bennett Heritage Foundation beautiful showcase, and in the end of September in Lauderhill, I'll be hosting the Young Professionals Network of that same city. Their headshot day, I just booked that today. I'll be hosting a 5K, lovely 5K. The race is coming up, I think, in October. The ladies who work to help women with alopecia, people who have been suffering from cancer, they help to buy hair and wigs for people who have suffered while they're under treatment for illnesses. I'll be hosting that 5K. I'll be hosting 2 of my own empowerment events. Yes, I'm coming back with my own empowerment events. I've just been kind of interviewing speakers this week. God has told me, Suzette, move forward. You have a vision. You want to impact the lives of people. So get to work. And I've been hiding from it. I've been kind of quiet. You guys know I've been known for doing, community forums and even networking events, but I'm going back into the empowerment space. Changing lives hey, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll be hosting an etiquette gala, etiquette banquet for a conference about etiquette. I'll be hosting a Babies and Bubbles brunch to support early childhood initiatives for kids. Miss Emma, busy. Oh, I'll be hosting at the Jerk Festival. Shout out to the Jerk Festival for inviting me back to host the culinary stage, where we'll be doing cooking competitions among top chefs from around the world, cooking demos. That's going to be, when is that, the 9th? Is it December, November 9th? I can't even get the date straight. I'm just very thankful. So for those who don't know, I'm a woman for and about the community. Yeah, man, make sure I keep my ear to the ground. So when we're talking about what's going on in D.C., it is not just staying in D.C., it's the country, even around the world. People are very concerned, even curious as to what this means for the regular everyday person. While we're looking at inflation, while we're looking at the price of grocery, people were talking about how expensive it was to prepare for back to school. While we're looking at all those things, we're thinking about this new development. So I was talking to my colleague and contact from the Jerk Festival. We were speaking this morning, kind of going over details of what I'll be doing this year. And she was like, yeah, man, how are you? And I'm like, how are you? And we were just talking about the news, and she said, "Girl, if you watch the news, you get discouraged. You don't even need to watch the news." And I told her, I said, "No, we have to kind of still stay informed, although it may seem very heavy at times. But we have to do what we have to do, right? So sometimes you turn it off, sometimes you watch it, right? You don't have to keep it on all day like my dad. My dad, I keep telling him, I'm like, you're going to have a medical issue. I won't speak it over him, but I'm like, you cannot watch this all day because it can cloud up your mind and make you think the most negative thoughts and that the world is falling apart and the world cannot change. We don't want that. But we do need righteous indignation at this time. We do need to look around and pay attention at what's happening. I'm going to get back to Alligator Alcatraz as well. I was on a news talk show giving my commentary about that as well. You guys know that I do commentary, political and social commentary, as well as hosting events for other people. But anyway, we're going to get into this story. I got to give, first of all, props to the mayor of DC, Muriel Bowser. Mayor Bowser has a very tough position she's in because according to this law that President Trump is evoking, he has the right. He definitely has the right to take over the police department. And I see you watching online. Shout out to Pastor Damon Blissett. Shout out to the ABX girl. My phone is a little bit further from me, girl. I can't even read that far. Let me come a little closer and see what the comment says, because I see you guys writing in the chat. Shout out to everybody watching online. Let me see if I can pull up her comment. And I appreciate you sending me messages. Follow me on all platforms. Suzette Speaks. We love talking to people. If you need help, if you're looking for community resources, reach out. That's what we're here for. The Voice of the Caribbean, for the community, by the community. Again, we are an app. You can always download the app and take us wherever you go. That's a part of it too, right? And like I said, we have some big changes. We can't announce them yet, but we're excited for as we build and, like I say, grow bigger, better, stronger together, right? But we are really following this story because it has some implications of President Donald Trump taking over the police department, the Metro Police Department of Washington, D.C., and what that means. And so Mr. Trump, for the reason for his action, he said, his decision comes, and I'm paraphrasing, amid concerns. This is not factual, but this is what he's saying, because we're going to get into what is real and what is not. President Trump is saying that there has been rising crime rates over D.C., but as we've been doing our research, and you can look it up yourself, when we fact check it, D.C. crime rates are at a 30-year low. Now, the mayor, as I was telling you, who has the most difficult job, Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., she has been doing an excellent job, I would say, trying to balance this takeover, the reality of it, while also trying to defend the rights of the taxpayers, American taxpayers that live in Washington, D.C. And they like to say, you know, this is why, and she has mentioned it, so many of the leaders of D.C. has been advocating for over the decades that they become a state. They feel as if, and I'm generalizing, you know, the term taxation without representation. They pay taxes. They go to war. They send, D.C. residents send their people to war, their loved ones to war. But they do not, they have a House member, but they don't have any full autonomy to exercise what they want to do. Even when they have I was reading that even when Washington, D.C. has a fiscal budget, it's Congress that can still oversee and change that budget, right? So the limitation of power that D.C. has is different from, for example, what we saw in a few weeks ago with California. Now, we saw also an incident where President Trump activated the National Guard and put troops on the ground in Los Angeles City. Their mayor happens to also be an African-American woman, Karen Bass. And in spite of her objection, the governor of California's objection, Mr. Gavin Newsom, and others, all kind of city leaders said we don't need military on the streets of LA. But Mr. Trump put several hundred boots on the ground of the U.S. military. Guys, why is this important? Because U.S. military service people are not necessarily trained in the same way to police communities. They're trained to go to war. right? They're trained for peacekeeping, if you will, but not in the way that our local police departments are specialized in community policing, in understanding how to de-escalate situations, how to deal with civilians, right? You have people who are ready for war, ready for combat, that are being deployed on American streets. Now, I'll make the contrast that California is different. California is a state, actually, and I can get into it after the break. Y'all know I only got an hour. We shaking and baking already. Welcome if you're just joining. It's the Suzette Speaks Show here on Voice of the Caribbean FM radio. We're grateful that you're here joining. You know, we like to make this show, the Suzette Speaks Show, which comes to you live every Thursday and Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Somewhat of a public square. You can call me. Y'all stop calling me. Y'all could call me if you want. And we could talk and, you know, tell me your opinion. I like when you do that. The number here at the studio is 850-446-0562, 850-446-0562. Get you right in touch here at the studio. And it is heavy. Sometimes, like I say, I don't even like to break down the news so much, because when I read it, I too can get discouraged and wonder what is happening. Can anyone do anything about it? Well, there have been lots of protests in Washington, D.C. Washingtonians have taken it to the streets. I've seen rallies. I'm going to play it for you. Let me light up some audio after the break. Y'all know we take a break at about the half-hour mark and come back with some more news. But yeah, the premise that Mr. Trump is stating as to why he is now taking over, having the federal government take over the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department, is saying that crime has gone up. And again, when you look at the facts, property crime, all kinds of crime. I was again doing some social and political commentary for a show yesterday. It was a lady lawyer's talk show, and I was just like, this is just not true. Now, Mayor Muriel Bowser did say in one of her recent press conferences that there was a small spike in crime right after COVID, for sure. But since then, going into 2023, 2024, up till now, we see all kinds of crime. Assaults are down, property crimes are down, like 25%, 35%. I've seen some crimes, I have to pull some statistics here for y'all. 39%, because I had them ready yesterday when I was talking about it, when I was doing some social commentary for another show. But yeah, so we see Mr. Trump's decision comes, as he says, amid concerns about rising crime, which again, factually, that is not accurate based on the statistics available. Despite statistics indicating that violent crime actually has decreased significantly in years, the president cited specific incidents, including an attack on, as I said, a staff member of his administration, as justification for the takeover. He described the situation in D.C. as being, quote, taken over by, and the language here matters, y'all, by violent gangs and so-called, quote unquote, according to NBC4 Washington, bloodthirsty criminals. Who is he talking about when he's using that language? And more importantly, who is he trying to vilify? When you see language like this, bloodthirsty criminals coming out of the mouth of the president of the United States, quote unquote, violent gangs, there's a real concern among the Black population of Washington, D.C., Black Washingtonians, Hispanic Washingtonians, anybody who is melanated, saying, and all jokes aside, really, who is this targeted towards, and what does that mean? Is it an attempt to single out certain people in certain neighborhoods, in certain communities? Will there be more violence towards those people by the military, the actual law enforcement officers? But not only them, like I said, the National Guard, hundreds of members of the National Guard are right now on our DC streets. And so it's a huge concern. So what is the ground? So by invoking the Section 740, which allows for federal control for up to, and this is the key, 30 days, with the possibility of an extension if Congress does not pass a resolution to stop it. Now remember, Republicans currently control Congress. The president's order requires DC mayor to provide police services for federal purposes during this period. This unprecedented move has drawn criticism from local officials, including Mayor Muriel Bowser, as I noted, and she has said over and over again, and I'll have some audio for you when we come back, She keeps noting, listen, the crime rates are actually down. They have reached a 30-year low, according to Fox 5 DC. So what has the public done? The announcement has sparked mixed reaction among residents and officials. While some support increased law enforcement to so-called combat crime, others view the federal takeover as an authoritarian move that undermines local governance. This situation is continuing to develop. If you have an opinion on it, you can call me, 850-446-0562. Suzette Speaks, get you right in touch. Again, as I get ready to head into a busy season of emceeing and hosting huge community events, I'll be sharing them here. I have a few, like I said, just lined up. I thank God. We really do need to stay prayed up. We do need to stay vigilant, and we have to pay attention. Sometimes this media, what can I call it? Whiplash, over and over, news story, slowly causes us to look away just for our own mental self-preservation. I get that, y'all. But we can't let democracy slip away. And again, we're going to review whether Mr. Trump has the grounds. We're going to talk about Muriel Bowser's response. And again, we're covering the developments in Washington, D.C. today. I want to thank you for listening to the Suzette Speaks Show. Please know that we are live here every Thursday and Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. You can follow me on all platforms. Suzette, 1Z, 2T, Speaks with an S, Suzette Speaks. And of course, follow Voice of the Caribbean on all platforms. We'll be right back after this quick break. More right after this.
Facebook, X, TikTok, and YouTube.
Let Broward County Transit take you to the summer fun and experience the natural beauty of South Florida. Enjoy sunset views from your paddle.
Wagwan, y'all. Wagwan. Uh-oh. I'm taping with 5 cameras today. Let me turn off the recorder. That camera is cloudy. Even though there's an overhead camera I'm taping with that's cloudy. Let me see if I can get one more camera angle. Where's this one? Is that this one? Yeah, that's this one. That one is so close to my face. There's like a camera right here. Y'all see it? I don't know if you can see it. It's all attached to the mic. But I really want to use this camera. Let's see if this camera is moving. How are you guys? Drop a comment. Let me know you're watching, please. Sorry. Let me just try to also adjust my... This one moving? This one's offline. This is the best camera and it's offline. There's a camera attached to this. Nope. Alright, let me tell my boss Wagwan. Yay, okay. Okay, I hope everybody's good. I do really need to do a collection of my events coming up because I have a ton. I actually was thinking about, I'm like, my September, October, November about to be litty with tons of events I'll be hosting. I do have to plug a few. I have to plug a few for the radio station. And anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day. Let me actually ask real quick, what are my top events? I know we have a promo for Amazing Fridays. Let me see if when I tell you it's hot in here, I'm not even gonna, and I don't think I can stay live. Let me do some pre-recording and then I'll come back. All right, let me just get some pre-recording done because this is like, I don't like these angles. It's like the weirdest thing, right? Sorry. We're back.
We're representing for the vice of the Caribbean, Jamaica and far beyond.
It's Old School Throwback Thursday on WCOP, WZBB Radio. 24 hours of the best Caribbean music. You're listening to WZBB,
The new 96.1
FM.
Yo, it's Shaggy. It's Voice of Caribbean. 102.1 Shaggy on your dial. Look at it while I'm in the phone. Yeah.
Hey. Hey. Hey, hey, little cartel for you. Ah, sit down, sit down. Hey, hey, all right, good midday. We can't sit down and hello, somebody. Like, I love that about Caribbean culture. We are a contrast sometimes. We be some of the most holy ghost people, and then a little cartel come up. Hallelujah. I'm guilty. And I know the moves and I know the words. God go forgive me because I know that's also part of my humanity. And all jokes aside, everybody listening, everybody watching, thank you so much for being a part of this community here, the Suzette Speaks Show. I appreciate everybody watching. Well, go on the YouTube side. Big of everybody watching on the app. We're having a little fun here. You know, it's a throwback. There we go. Thursday. And we have a lot to talk about. I'm keeping my legal eyes, hey, on what's going on in Washington, D.C. Of course, I told you at the top of the show, and it doesn't change now, but my opinions are that of me only. Suzette Speaks. It does not reflect the opinions of the ownership or management of this fine station. So please be advised as we're talking about the Trump takeover of DC police, the DC Metropolitan Police Department, and what does that mean and why. We have to get deep. Sometimes I have to break down the legal issue for you so you understand. Yeah, so we're going to do some of that today. Of course, I always want to keep you informed about the local events that's going on. Of course, Voice of the Caribbean is presenting Amazing Fridays at I-9. Yes, DJ Mikey Mike and company will be out in full effect. I-9 coming up on tomorrow, on Friday. So we're excited about Amazing Fridays. I did not see this. I was just reading another one of our announcements tonight. There's a couple of great events coming up tonight. I might be going to a Women's Network event called Diva tonight. Somebody just invited me to Diva in Pembroke Pines. So I might go over there. Let's see what the schedule looks like later. But I was just reading Rubber Dub Thursday in association with Militant Shipping and Courier. Militant Shipping and Courier, that's an interesting name, but nonetheless presents Major Mackerel Benefit Show and the return of the Clash 4-5 Shoe Toads. Okay, repeat and defeat. I love the name. Let's go. That's tonight, August 14th. Music by Militant, Fraternity Sound, and several other selectors. And I see this to help with the medical expenses of Major Mackerel. If you didn't know, Major Mackerel is a part of foundational dancehall music, and he suffered two strokes this year. So this is a fundraiser to help if you are inclined. Again, this is based on veteran artists that are coming together to help Major Mackerel again Thursday today. And I'm looking for the venue. Mikey, link up with the venue. I don't see the venue on here, but again, this is a dub competition, and the Cash App is Gary Exodus 14. Cash App is Gary Exodus 14. Again, add there in the Cash App message for Major Mackerel in the notes to help with the medical expenses after two strokes this year. I think about that because a lot of musicians don't have retirement funds. Some, based on their performances, depending on how consistent their income is, can't afford health care on a regular basis or may not have health insurance. So that's being talked about, I know, in the Grammy circles. So to hear that one of our veteran artists in the dancehall fraternity is, in need, I'm glad that there are other folks who are coming forward. I see Peter Metro, Jixie King, Veta, Lion Fierce. I see Terry Ganzi, Don Mafia, Rico Bantan, Skacha, Danny Dredd. And of course, this is going to help raise funds for Major Mackerel, who suffered two strokes. Shout out to the community for coming together and helping him out in his time of need. So, as I was telling you, the very top story, there we go, that is being discussed all around the country, right, is what's happening in Washington, D.C. And it's a very serious situation because President Trump, he has decided to take over what he is calling a crime-ridden city. And again, the statistics show the opposite. Crime is at a 30-year low in Washington, D.C. And again, what I'm discussing here is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. Again, my opinions are what are being expressed, not the opinions of the ownership or management of this radio station. Because I might get a little saucy. I don't know. Sometimes I calm down. Sometimes I start calm, and then I get a little hype. So, just putting them out there, Mikey. I got you. Shout out to our station management. Okay, so I was reading The Guardian, which is a well-respected newspaper or even newspaper now, and it says. And the story I was going to just kind of highlight is Trump's DC takeover harkens back to a dark incident 33 years ago when crime was far worse. A violent event in 1992 prompted a response not from the president but from Congress. But back then, it had the same dystopian language. So I just want to, this is one thing as an attorney I'd like to pay attention to because language does matter. When people are saying violent gangs, right? And some of the words they are utilizing to describe, people are saying as dog whistle for people of color, for black men, for people who are melanated, right? As dangerous. And what does that mean? And how that not only divides the community, but puts their very lives of those Washingtonians, of those citizens, and those residents of Washington, D.C., in danger. So Donald Trump's takeover, this is according to the Guardian article that was just published, Donald Trump's takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police department and the decision to deploy the National Guard was sparked by the assault of a former Doge staffer who was nicknamed, and this is from the article, I wouldn't even say this, the nickname of the Doge staffer calls himself Big Balls, whatever that means. Well, 33 years ago, just as we are students of history, it's good to look back. 33 years ago, a fatal attack on a congressional staffer also provoked an effort by federal government officials to impose law and order on the nation's capital. But in that case, it came from Capitol Hill. So I know a lot of people try to say, where can we learn from history and apply what is going on today? Well, according to the Guardian article on Monday, Trump said he was taking quote, an historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is the president's quote. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back, he said. In 1992, it was the death of a 25-year-old named Tom Barnes, a staffer for Senator Richard Shelby, a Democrat of Alabama, that prompted the senator to introduce legislation to legalize the death penalty in Washington, D.C. Shelby, a conservative Democrat, who would become a Republican 2 years later, acknowledged that many D.C. community leaders had historically been opposed to the death penalty, but he argued that the tide has changed using similar dystopian language that we are currently hearing from Trump. Back then, this is what the senator said. Quote, the terror that comes with living in a war zone has prompted many residents to reconsider the appropriateness, ethically and legally, of a death penalty in Washington, D.C., Shelby wrote in March 1992 in a Washington Post op-ed. People, he continued, are using guns to settle arguments about clothes and girlfriends. They are smoking, quote unquote. Others, smoking is in taking their lives. Others, because they feel like it. This was the senator in 1992. Let's make the comparison to what's going on and what we're hearing from our own president, the rhetoric we're comparing. Back in 1992, when the takeover happened that many years ago by Congress, that senator whose staffer was injured said they will even, quote, bust a cap in you if they don't like the way you look at them. Ha ha ha. Bust a cap. All right. That was language from 33 years ago. They said if those who do not know their history, they would be destined to repeat it. Well, now, moving forward, in announcing the police takeover on Monday, Trump cited the attack on Edward Korestein, who he said was, quote, savagely, this is the Doge staffer, y'all, savagely beaten by a band of roaming thugs, and, quote, this is the president saying, left dripping in blood. He also referenced the June slaying of Eric Tarpinian Jakim. Oh, this is I remember this. An intern for Republican Representative Ron Estes of Kansas, who was killed by a crossfire in a drive-by shooting. Last week, his mother, Tamara Tarpinian Jakim, I hope I'm saying it right, told ABC News that she supported Trump's idea of a federal takeover, which had threatened which he had threatened in a social media post. But according to The Guardian, there's one key difference between then and now. According to this article, Trump is painting an exaggerated picture of crime in D.C., where now violent crime is at a 30-year low. But back in January of 1992, Washington was really a crime-plagued city. It was coming off of a year that had seen 482 murders in 1991, earning it the ignoble title of the murder capital of the United States. By contrast, now back in 1991, there were 482 killings. But now, last year, the homicide rate last year in Washington, D.C., talking about now, was 187 homicides last year, and the city is on a pace for a much lower number this year. According to the book Dream City, Race, Power, and the Decline of Washington, D.C. by Harry Jaffe and Tom Sherwood, Barnes and Shelby Stafford left his home on Saturday night in January 1992, taking us back, to go to a corner store to get coffee grounds for the next morning. A group of teenagers, this was back in 1992 in D.C., approached him and demanded his money, and they, quote unquote, put a cap in him. "Leave me alone," Barnes replied, and turned up the street. One of them took this man's life by shooting him in the head, landing him in a coma. He died 4 years later, marking the 22nd homicide in 1992. At that time, a Capitol was an outrage. The Tuscaloosa News editorial ran a story that says, "Beset by drug and violence, the newspaper declared Washington, D.C. has become a national disgrace and an American embarrassment." This was in 1992 when we saw a similar takeover. So at that time, it was this staffer of Senator Shelby. Tom's death was the catalyst for Senator Shelby, at the time, his involvement in what he called a crime-ridden city, which at that time, but we got to look at the facts from now. So at that time, what was the result? The senator imposed a death penalty bill for D.C., saying that any crimes that were worthy of the death penalty will now be an option in Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, or you could say fortunately, the death penalty on D.C. failed, but he did get Congress to vote to force the city to hold a referendum on their fall ballot, asking Washingtonians to authorize capital punishment. "The crime and justice system is out of control," he said, Senator Shelby, in 1992, "and the Congress is not going to turn its back on the issue." Even some home rule champions on the Hill voted with Shelby. The D.C. Council repealed the death penalty in 1981, but the last execution in Washington, D.C. took place in 1957, years before the city won home rule in 1973. So what happens now? Well, this week, Washington leaders bristled, meaning they were very upset at Trump's takeover of the police. Their non-voting delegate in the House of Representatives, D.C. again, they're Washingtonians. They live in the District of Columbia. It's not a state. So they do have a delegate in the House of Representatives, but that delegate does not have a vote. And her name is Eleanor Holmes Norton. And she says, she called it, a quote, "an historic assault on D.C. home rule," while the mayor, Muriel E. Bowser, described it as unsettling and unprecedented. I think that's the strongest language she could use under the circumstances, because Mr. Trump is operating within the law, shocking, that allows him, but many argue, is it applicable? Because this is not an emergency. He's creating an emergency, many are arguing. It hasn't been brought to court, but he says there is an absolute emergency. That's why he can invoke this 1973 Act and take over the police of Washington, D.C. and put National Guard troops, which are right now patrolling parts of Washington, D.C. According to the House of non-voting delegate to the House of Representatives that D.C. holds, Eleanor Holmes Norton, she says, quote, "There is something approaching rage among the voters of the district about this disempowerment, about Congress forcing this on us," says Norton, who was in her first term in Congress at the time. That was during the 1992 issue. So we're seeing echoes of this now in the same language. now in 2025 being used by the president. So this is nothing new. And it is something that is very, very unsettling, as the mayor put it. And it's something that is causing a lot of political observers, everyday people, attorneys, people who are trying to understand, where does this end? Because under the law that Mr. Trump has invoked, he has 30 days, or it has to go back to Congress for approval or to stop him. But again, there's a Republican-controlled Congress. So at this dangerous point, you know, we have to really think about it. When the military is deployed to quell what has been and what has taken place in D.C. so far is like peaceful protests, peaceful. And we're thinking about, you know, what does that mean about the free speech of everyday Americans, including Washington, D.C. residents and the citizens there, Washingtonians? Are they going to now be in fear of being handcuffed, not by just police, by the military on their streets? What does that mean for free speech? If you are in opposition to what the president is doing, if you are an opposition political candidate or political representative, what does that mean? Because what have we been seeing? Student activists being jailed or deported. A wide range of institutions under attack from our universities. Think about what's just been happening with Harvard and many others. Law firms, news outlets. We can keep going now. Scientists are being targeted. People have very true and founded concerns about what is the federal government's power and how much more should it be exercising. Now, I said under this law in D.C., the president is within, according to the law. Muriel Bowser, the mayor, has said she's willing to work with the federal partners, but it is unsettling and unprecedented. But something like this has been dredged up before, because remember, the majority of residents of Washington, D.C. are people of color. And there are, again, echoes of what some say are dog whistles, meaning dog whistle means you can't hear it, but it's what's being said without saying it, which is that these people are dangerous. Who are these people? I'm gonna ask you, who do you think are gonna now be the focus of these type of efforts? Which communities? And again, whether you are law-abiding, going about your business, paying your taxes, working hard every day, trying to take care of your family or not, you are susceptible. You are in danger. Because again, it's not just police. There are military personnel on your streets. Now, you do have, to play the devil's advocate, people who are saying, this is a great idea. But what I saw is protests yesterday, people in the street saying, no, 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 no. Why is this happening? There are people who are worried, and they are saying, you know, certain commentators are saying we're on the cusp of what they call authoritarianism, a one-person rule government, that we are not going to have the voice of the people anymore. It's going to be one person, one man, one rule. We tried that already. That was called a king. And again, we have to have objective scrutiny. What is happening and why? There's one thing that people tell you they're doing and why they tell you they're doing it, but you have to use common sense and try to, what they call, deduce, critical thinking, looking at the facts, and does that really make sense? Or is there a whole nother intention here? What is the outcome they're hoping for? That's why we have to look at these things with a bit of scrutiny. And again, the truth is that crime has been going down in DC. With a short spike right after COVID, with that as one exception, overall the 30-year trend is that crime has been down. All types of crime, property crime, sexual assault. I was reading it. All of the major categories of crime are down. You can go any city in the United States, any city in the world really, but since we're talking about in the United States, you're susceptible to possibilities of crime no matter where you are. But this is at a 30-year low. But we hear this being used as the pretext for taking over the DC police and adding National Guard troops on the streets of the nation's capital. Again, it's unsettling to say the least. And I think the press has an obligation, and everyday people have an obligation to look at really what's happening and ask themselves, why is this really happening? Again, there are a lot of voters, many Black Washingtonians. And again, though, there may be a lot, even in that group, that say, okay, I'm a law and order advocate, but is this the right place at the right time? And is this the right move? And does it put other innocent people in danger? We're going to have to see. But there's a lot of, can I say, racial undertone to it. That unspoken part that I'm talking about. That makes many people uncomfortable. I appreciate everybody showing love in the chat. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, DL, saying I really want to know. But I want you to look into it. I know, again, the news cycle is so busy and there's so much going on. But I was giving you some perspective of when it happened before in 1992. This article in The Guardian talks about how DC was taken over by this kind of language from Capitol Hill. And in that case, it wasn't from the president. It was from the members of Congress trying to impose their will on fighting crime in DC. But the difference being, at that time, DC did have a crime problem. But it does not have one now, arguably. And so the grounds by which President Trump is now exercising the law in order to move forward with adding troops has been questionable at the very least, dubious at most. We'll see if we see any lawsuits or what happens after 30 days, because he has the right up to 30 days, according to Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. He has up to 30 days. And again, President Trump has placed, and again, according to this act, it has allowed the president to place the Metropolitan DC Police Department under federal control. It's under Pam Bondi. The Attorney General is overseeing the police department. I'm like, there's so much people that are properly and, specifically trained in law enforcement. And we're putting a lot of folks who are not in direct contact with the public, with kids, with teenagers, with young adults, with working professionals, with elderly, with the public, who may not be equipped or trained to deal with what we got going on in DC. And again, as crime is at a 30-year low, there's more questions than answers, but we'll see. The declaration enables the deployment of federal law enforcement agencies, including the National Guard, to assist in maintaining, quote, order and public safety. And then Trump is using, in his estimation, so-called rising crime. But again, we know factually, that is not true. Crime in DC has been actually decreasing. So we're going to keep on top of this developing story. And again, pay attention to the language, the coded language, the quote, violent gangs, the blood. I didn't even get a chance to play some of President Trump's own words, but you can find it online and do your research. The invocation of Section 740 allows for federal control to last up to 30 days, with the possibility of an extension if Congress does not pass a resolution to stop it. The president's order requires the DC mayor to provide police services for federal purposes during this period. This unprecedented move has drawn criticism from local officials, including DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has noted that crime rates are actually at a 30-year low. So again, there's so much more I can say about this. I'm almost out of time, y'all. I appreciate you guys listening. I am here every Thursday and Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Y'all know I'm also an attorney, and I help people who have been injured. So if you were ever injured, whether it be a car accident, whether it be on your job, I got a call from a lady. I'm not sure if I'll be able to help her. I'm just looking into the case now, but she had laser removal and super burns all over her face. I'm going to look into it. whether it's at a medical facility, medical malpractice, somebody loses their life in the hospital, etc. I try to help people seek justice, but you can call me for a free consultation. And you can call up here at the station. They'll give you my number. The station number is 850-446-0562. Or you can reach out to me on all social media. Follow me, Suzette Speaks, for news, events, and updates. And you guys know I'll be around town. This is a busy season. Again, I'm very grateful for those who I don't know. And in addition to being a radio personality and attorney, I'm a community advocate. I'm trying to just have a positive impact. Oh, I did not even get to the Miami story of the Trump administration pulling $60 million in funding from road work that was supposed to take place and creating a huge park, an overpass, Overtown Underpass Park. It's $60 million that was supposed to create a wonderful greenway near Overtown, right? A huge walkable park. The transportation secretary under Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, had overseen the allocation of this $60 million. Well, the Trump administration has now pulled that $60 million. Man, I have to save that for tomorrow. This time goes by so fast. I appreciate everybody listening. We try to have thought-provoking community forums here on the Suzette Speaks Show. I appreciate your support. We appreciate your support. You can follow us on all platforms, Voice of the Caribbean. You can download the app. You don't have to just listen on the radio. We love when you do, though, when you're driving around town from Miami all the way up to Fort Lauderdale. We appreciate you rocking with us as we continue to build and grow stronger. Again, lots of changes coming up. Can't announce them just yet, but stay tuned. And again, all of the opinions expressed during my show were that of me personally and not reflective of the station's management or ownership. Stay tuned. Today is a Throwback Thursday. A lot of good music here for you, and appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Take it easy. Have a good afternoon.
Hollywood. You're listening to WZOP 92.7 LP FM, Fort Lauderdale.
This is Mikey Mike from the Voice of the Caribbean. For over the last 30 years, personal injury lawyer Samuel Rotinsky have been helping the Florida class with personal injury, workers' compensation, medical malpractice,